Hello and welcome to the Facebook and YouTube channels for Silver Silk and More. I am Stephanie Reis, and today I have some amazing products that I'd like to share with you from the Silver Silk and More website and a project to share with you. So let's get started. Okay, I have everything laid out here. Thanks for joining me today. I hope everybody's doing really wonderful. So I'd like to start with just sharing with you really quick some of the products that I have from Silver Silk and More. And first off, and the product that I'm going to focus on today, this is Hollow Mesh, and it is, the color is Seafoam, and I absolutely love it. It was the first, my first pick on the project that I want to share with you today, and it's got some pearlescent in it, and I just love how it shines. I think that one of my favorite things is to put things in it, and so you can put crystals, maybe leather, or even some chain through it. Wouldn't that be wonderful? So I'll just share with you really quick. This is the project. This is the earring I made. We're going to make the other earring with it, and as you can see, I used the hollow mesh in Seafoam to create this earring. So we'll come back to that, and I wanted to share with you, this is capture chain in Rockstar, and not only do I love the name, but I love the silver and the black knitted chain around the ball chain. Isn't that wonderful? The next thing I have is this pipe chain. I absolutely love these colors. So when I picked out some of these products to share with you, I was also thinking about late summer and also early fall. So I have to admit that I have some fall designs in mind with these beautiful, this is pipe chain. This is pipe chain in tourmaline, and this is pipe chain in green turquoise. Such beautiful, vibrant colors. And then I picked out some of this fabulous mesh. This is a flat mesh knitted wire in dark rose. And then I also have the same flat mesh in antique white. I love it. So just some different products here for you to share with you. I'll ravel that up later. And also you can find some really beautiful findings. I have these are the Silver Silk connector pieces. I have them in gold and silver, and as you can see, there's an opening, and you would put the capture chain inside and squeeze it down for a finished look. And there's also, I found this really intriguing. I have a really cool project in mind to use this 2-hole finding with the pipe chain pieces. So I can't wait to make that. And then I also found these end caps. So awesome that you can put on the end of the hollow mesh after you've stuffed it, and it fits perfectly inside. Perfectly inside. What a great way to finish the hollow mesh, right? So let's get started on the project that I have in mind. And again, this is the earring that I created, and it is a summery earring. I just returned from the beach, so I still have the beach on the brain, and I have this wonderful in my stash, these shell beads, and I want to say that I don't know if they're ceramic or if they're glass, but the definition on them is really cool. So I have that, and then I have these are two-toned agate ovals, and I just thought they were really neat to put the mesh over, and the mesh just fitted perfectly over it. So there's that, and then I have a tiara cast cone that I've used. And then also, I'm also using a couple of the beads from this Heishi strand. These are, I want to say they're 3x2 Heishi beads in shell. And I had never seen these before, so I thought they were really awesome, and I was so excited to use them with the mesh. They matched, excuse me, they matched the hollow mesh almost perfectly. All right, so some other things that you'll need to create this earring set I have here in my little heart dish. So we have the beads, so you're going to need bead caps. You're going to need 2, and I picked these to match the tiara cast cone. I thought they were really nautical looking, and it also matched my cone really well. And then we're going to need some, either you'll need some, since this hole was a little bit large on the bottom, if you could see that, you're going to need either a bead cap. I chose a tiny silver bead cap, or you could find a seed bead, like an 11 size seed bead, to go on the end there, because my head pin, as you can see, the little ball, it went right through the bead. So that's how I finished my shell. And then moving up on the earring, you're going to need some pieces of chain, and I've gone ahead and added my jump rings. I used, I believe these are 3mm 20 gauge or either 22 gauge jump rings, split jump rings and I added them to my chain. Because the mesh is a fine mesh, I chose a really fine chain here. If you could see it, I'll put my finger under it. It's really fine. You don't want anything too heavy. I don't know what the pound weight is for the SilverSilk, but definitely because of the earring, you don't want it to be too heavy of a chain. So this is a fine silver chain that I picked out to dangle down from the mesh. And then, of course, an earring wires, and then I showed you the heishi beads. So that's what you're going to need to create this earring today. And then wire, I have, this is probably about a 3.5 inch piece of 24 gauge silver wire. I also have another, it's about 3 inches of 22 gauge wire. And then I have, this is about a 3 inch piece as well, of 20 gauge silver wire. And then some tools that you'll need to create this project. I have 2 pairs of chain nose pliers. That's for opening and doing other things, opening the jump rings and doing other necessary tasks. Round nose pliers and a pair of flush cutters. All right. So first, I want to work from the bottom up on this piece. So first I'm going to create this shell connection. And for that, I'm using, this is, I believe, a 2-inch ball head pin for this. And then I also am using one of these silver bead caps. It's a tiny bead cap that I just want to, it's got a scalloped edge on it, and I thought matched perfectly with my shell. And we just want to attach that little piece, the little bead cap, onto the head pin. And again, you can use a tiny bead, like a seed bead or some other decorative bead. You don't have to use the bead cap per se. So we're just adding it to our shell like so. And then I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers, and I'm going to put it straight flush with my bead, and I'm pushing the wire towards me to make a bend like so, because we're going to wire wrap it. And then I'm coming back in about just a smidge into my pliers, my round nose pliers, and I'm going to push up and around with that wire like so, and we've created this loop. And then as I rotate I'm going to be all fingers today. I'm rotating my pliers down, and I'm coming around with that wire, and I'm gently easing it up to create my loop. I went down just a little bit too much. And sometimes you can correct the loop with your pliers like I've done. Sometimes it's not always perfect, and you can use your pliers to create the loop and fix it if it's a little bit off. So now I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to grab that loop gently. And a lot of times I like to use my fingers to wrap the wire around because I feel like I have just a better connection and I'm getting that wire really close to my stem here when I'm wrapping it around. But for this gauge of wire, it's a 21 gauge wire and it's hard. So my fingers have a hard time wrapping and getting right next to the wire. So for these head pins, I take my other chain nose pliers and I just gently wrap it around, and I'm able to get that wire right next to the wrap is right next to the stem. And I'm going to do about 3 wraps around so that my bead is snug. And then I'm turning it. I rotated my bead back down and I'm going to clip away that extra stem there. As you can see, I'm holding on to the extra wire so that it doesn't fly off. And then I'm just going to gently, with my chain nose pliers, tuck in that little extra piece, and I'm also straightening my loop. I always straighten my loops. It's really important for nice looking jewelry. And it doesn't take long. It only takes a minute or two to kind of, and really I'm just eyeballing it. And you can see sometimes that a little bit of like it gets crooked when you're wrapping, and so you just want to straighten it. So that's it. And then I also want to keep in mind that where I ended my wire, that's going to be the back. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and thread my I'm going to take my agate bead and I'm going to thread through the 20 gauge piece of wire with one of the bead caps. So first, to do that, I'm going to go ahead and just make sure it's nice and warm. And I always start with a flush cut. So when I cut the wire, I have one end that has a flush cut on it. And I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to come in and I'm going to make a standard loop, gently pushing that around, and then I'm coming back a little bit so that I have an eye pin. And I'm just straightening it out and closing it, making sure my loop is completely closed and that it's straight. The next thing you're going to do is come in with your chain nose pliers and you're going to open that loop just a smidge, and we're going to feed our scallop shell charm onto the eye pin. And remember, I want my eye pin to be, my cut is going to be in the back, and also my shell where my wire is cut will be to the back as well. And then we're going to just close it back up again, gentle, gentle, gentle. And I'm making sure that my loop is closed. And I'm straightening my loop with my wire, warming my wire up a little bit. There we go. There we go. So the next thing is we're going to feed our bead cap onto our 20 gauge piece of wire. And then, as you can see, this is how I have the two-toned white part down to the bottom. So I'm going to feed that to the bottom, like so. So this next part is going to be the wire mesh part. And before we feed the hollow mesh onto our bead, I've gone ahead and I've cleaned up. So as you can see, the other end looks like this, where sometimes you'll get little pieces that once it's been cut, it will hang on to the links, the little wire links. And you can go in and just gently give this a little opening. And that's how I opened the wire mesh, so that I'm able to feed. I'm just going to remove this back, my agate piece onto here. And I'm not pushing hard, I'm just gently easing the hollow mesh, and it will give a little bit. So I'm just easing that hollow mesh over my bead like so, such that you have a piece that looks like this. And you don't want to force it, you just want to gently rotate it onto the bead and it will give. And we're going to come all the way down to this white part, like so. I'm just gently pushing it on, and you'll feel it give a little bit, and it will eventually move its way down on the bead, like so. And as I'm doing it, I'm also kind of pushing down on the little links that are here. It links here that we're going to hang the chain. So that is about even with the other bead. And so now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to slip this out of my wire mesh piece, as you can see here, and I'm going to attach this back onto my bead, my wire, and I'm going to lay that down. And the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and attach the silver chain to each of these little pieces here. And if any of them are closed, you could take your round nose pliers and just gently add them in and pull them up down if you need to. Otherwise, these all look great. Let me grab one of these and I will show you. Let's see where my opening is. Sometimes I have to put them down. So I'm going to go ahead and open this little jump ring here. Oops. Did I not get, oh, there it is, okay. These are so tiny that I have to really look at them. Okay, so I've got it open, and remember you want to open from front to back, not side to side. You'll never get that shape back. So I am just going to add this jump ring to this little end link here, making sure that I have a really, really closed jump ring. These little wires on the knitted wire, on this knitted chain or hollow mesh, are super, super thin. It's a really fine gauge, and so any little crack in that jump ring and your silver chain will just come out. I'm going to do one more of these to show you. I won't bore you with showing you all of them. If I can just find the opening, these are so tiny. I think I found it. There it is. And again, I'm opening it from front to back so that I don't lose the shape. And I'm going to add it to the next little one that's hanging down, the next little link. And I'm just adding it to that bottom link. And then, oops, grab it from the side and making sure that my jump ring again is super, super closed, tight. All right, I'm going to stop and add the rest of my chain, and I'll be back to finish the earring. Okay, I'm back and I have finished adding the chain to the end of my hollow mesh in seafoam. And now I'm ready to add it to my agate, my two-toned oval agate. And I'm going to, let's see, I tell you what, I think what's going to be easier is if we add it here, because we're going to have to cut it, and with that wire in there, it's not going to, there we go. And so I've got it evenly placed here. There we go. I need to cut it first. So let me go ahead. So hopefully you can see the end of the oval piece is here. And I went up about 2 and I cut it 2 links above where the agate ends, the oval agate. So 1, 2, and I'm going to cut it there. All right. And we've got little pieces of wire mesh. It's okay. So I'm just getting that off of there. And then I'm going to pull it back off of my agate. And I'm just going to take my pliers here and I'm going to open it up a little bit just so I can see any of the, put that back on, any of the little remaining pieces that didn't get cut away or cut evenly. So sometimes if you hang it down, oh, looks like I did do okay. I don't want to cut any of the finished links, right? I just want to remove the little pieces that are hanging down. I think maybe I got everything. Maybe it was a clean cut. Okay. So now we can add this back. Huh. I probably couldn't do that again even if I tried. Last time I had to, on this other one, I had to clean it up and cut all the little pieces away, but of course, thankfully, it worked just fine. So now we can add it with our wire through it. And I'm just going to gently ease it back on and make sure all my chains are dangling down. One got caught here. Let's see, there it goes. And so all my chains are hanging down here, like so. Here we go. There it is. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to add the Heishi bead inside, because as you can see here, I've added a little bit of movement, and I'll show you what I mean by that, because we're gonna, hopefully you can see inside, you're gonna wire wrap so that the mesh doesn't come off. So I added a little bead in there so you don't see wire and you see the beautiful blue turquoise color. And then I'll show you how I added movement. I like lots of movement. If you don't want movement, I can also show you how you can add this directly down. Instead of adding a bead, we'll wrap it and then you'll just directly add your cone if you don't like a lot of movement. But I really loved how it moved. All right, so let's add our little blue turquoise bead in there. Let's see, I may have to, okay, I have to remove it. Let's see. So let's go ahead and add that on. I guess I'm so excited about how this fits. It fits really great. And now we'll add it down. Okay. There we go. And so we're just easing that back down, making sure all of our chain. And so there is our, got our bead, and we've got our mesh down on there. And I'm just going to pinch that mesh over the blue bead. And then I'm just making sure that I've got it even with this bead, and I haven't covered up too much of the white. Okay. So we added our oval bead, then we added our heishi, and then we put our mesh on top. And then I'm just gently pushing in. And now I see some of the pearlescent strands are kind of coming through, and I'm not going to pull on them, but I do want to just clip those away because I don't want them, I want them to stay on my bead. That's what makes it so pretty. So now we can just clip those away. So, all right. And then I'm going to just ease that in. I'm squeezing it over. Now I see a little bit of a piece that's not, shouldn't be there. Okay. Like so. So now I'm going to add my loop of this, like so. I've bent it down, my wire, my 20 gauge wire, and I'm going to give it a loop on top. And this is what's going to create that movement, because you have two loops inside the bead, the cone. And I'm just going to clip that away. And I'm going to bring it down like so. And I'm making sure it's closed and straight. And I want to turn this a little bit so that I have opposite ends. I have my one loop going one way and this one going the other way. And making sure that they're straight. Okay. And then again, I'm pushing down a little bit on that wire just to make sure it's snug on my bead. And now I'm just going to add, I'm going to take my 24 gauge piece of wire, and I want to wrap this mesh into place. I don't think it'll go anywhere, but I added it just to be on the safe side, and I went ahead and I just took it through my loop. I took it through the little tiny mesh links on the SilverSilk wire to the other side, and then I just wrapped it around the loop just to be sure that my mesh isn't going to go somewhere. I don't think it will, but I did it as a precaution just to be sure. So I'm just going to add a couple of loops onto there, and I'm keeping this down, and then I want to add another loop on the other side just in case my mesh decides it wants to come out. I don't think it will, but again, I did it for again, you could probably try it without the wrap and it would be beautiful and stay in place. But I wanted to just make sure that my mesh didn't go anywhere. And so I'm just going to clip away these little pieces. And you could even use a finer gauge wire. I had, the smallest gauge I had was 24, so I used that to secure it in place. And again, a little bit of these pieces are coming up, so I'm just clipping them away, the little strands. I don't want to pull on them. I just want them to just clip them away a little bit so that they're not sticking out. Let me grab my other pliers here. All right. And again, I'm pushing down on the mesh just a little bit so that it stays in place. And then I'm just making sure I don't have any strands hanging out. Okay. And that is, I want to say I see a little strand. There it is. Just clipping away the little extra strands. Okay. And then it looks like I have a little piece of the mesh there. Okay. I think we're good now. And then I'm just making sure I don't have any rough edges there, that I've tucked in all of my little wires. And they're in place. All right. Okay. All right. We're getting there. We're getting there. So now my next step is to take my 22 gauge piece of wire, and I'm going to do a wire wrap next to this loop. And again, I always start with the flush cut of the wire. I'm going to come down a little ways, make a bend. I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to make a wrapped loop. Come over, rotate up, come back around, as you can see. And then you can open that loop a little bit and add your loop to the loop on your earring, and we're going to wire wrap it. Just once or twice. You don't need much because it's going to be covered by the cone. I'm going to cut away this loop, tuck that little edge in, make sure my loop is straight, and now I'm adding my bead cone, and you can see how it creates movement. And then to top it off, I'm adding my heishi bead. I'm going to do one more loop, and I want to do a side loop so that I can attach my, I'm bending my wire down, attach my ear wire, coming up, and I'm doing one more wrapped loop like so. I'm grabbing my wire, and with this wire, because it is a little bit soft, I can quickly and easily wrap, and I'm doing a double wrap with my wire. I like how that looks, and I'm going to end on the back side, and I'm going to clip away with the flush side, holding the cut piece so it doesn't fly away, and I'm just going to tuck that in like so. And then I'm just straightening my loop. And now I just need to add my ear wire. I'm opening the loop from side to side. Closing my loop, making sure everything is straight. And that is your finished earring. And hang on 1 second, I'll try them on for you. And I'm back, and they're all done. And this is what they look like on. I hope that you have enjoyed what I've shared with you today as much as I've enjoyed sharing with you. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and